We're talking two Dolphins free agent targets because they have been linked, and they being the Dolphins, to these two available NFL free agents by Bleacher Report. Rasheem Green, the edge, who formerly of the Seattle Seahawks, Houston Texans, and Chicago Bears. And then our own Connor Williams. Could they go out and re-sign the interior offensive lineman? We're going to talk about those two guys and if Chris Grier should make that move here on Dolphins Today. I am Nic Rohloff. And make sure you are following me over on Twitter, by the way, because if Dolphins news drops, my Twitter will have it first. Perfect example. Monday night, 9:15 Eastern Time, Marcus Maye signs with Miami. You know where you would have found that information first? My Twitter, at Nic_Rohloff. I tweeted about it, and then I came on the channel and delivered you guys a full 8-minute plus video. So if you want that in the future and want to stay up to date, best way to do it is following me on Twitter and being subscribed, at Nic_Rohloff's the handle. All right, first up on today's show, let's talk about Rasheem Green, the edge. And let's start with what Bleacher Report had to say, Alex Ballantyne, on the veteran pass rusher. He said Rasheem Green isn't going to transform any defensive lines around the league. His most disruptive year still only saw him have 6.5 sacks and 6 tackles for loss. He is, however, a useful and versatile defensive lineman who should be on a roster. The 27-year-old has never been, her stock has never been lower, but the right fit could see him be a productive member of a defensive line rotation this year. The Miami Dolphins could use a cheap, powerful edge player after losing Emmanuel Ogbah this offseason. And yes, the Dolphins did lose Emmanuel Ogbah, but they also added 3 other edges to pair alongside Jaelan Phillips and Bradley Chubb. Remember, they drafted 2 of them. One in the first round at 21 overall, Chop Robinson. One in the 5th round, Muhammad Kamara out of Colorado State, who I'm a big fan of because he has a really high motor and was really productive at the collegiate level. But they also signed Shaq Barrett over from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is an absolute loaded edge group that features 2 of the top guys in the entire NFL at the position, and then 2 young rookies that show a lot of promise, with a veteran who has been one of the best edge rushers in the NFL over the past 6 or 7 years. This is a loaded room, and the idea of adding another edge could really not make a lot of sense, and that's why I was confused with what Bleacher Report. There is only one way to me that the Dolphins could, I guess, rationalize signing another edge to this depth chart and roster. The only way I see them adding another edge is if you feel, or Chris Grier, or Mike McDaniel's coaching staff, feels that both Jaelan Phillips and Bradley Chubb, Phillips coming off an Achilles injury, Chubb coming off a knee injury, they won't be ready for week 1. Jaguars week 1, Bills week 2, 2 quarterbacks you got to get after the pass or get after. If you feel that your 2 top guys aren't going to be ready and can only play maybe 50% of the snaps, maybe then you do go sign Rasheem Green, because Shaq Barrett, Chop Robinson, Mo Kamara probably can't do it all by themselves to start the year. So that's the only way to me. We're going to talk more about Rasheem Green and his background in just a second. But just after hearing what I have to say, do the Dolphins need to sign an edge, type Y for yes or type N for no? Green was mentioned as a little bit of a journeyman, and he was never really that productive, and that is awfully true. Over the last 4 seasons, he's bounced around between 3 teams. Played his initial ball in the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks, where he did have that best year in 2021 with 6.5 sacks, 6 TFLs, and 15 QB hits. Then on different teams the last 2 years. Was okay as a rotational guy for Houston in 22, putting up 3.5 sacks, 8 quarterback hits, and then signed late in free agency with the Chicago Bears and did not really do much. And that was an edge group, by the way, that really struggled. Yannick Ngakoue was their top guy, who is also still a free agent. They ended up trading for Montez Sweat midway through the year, but that was partially because Rasheem Green and Yannick Ngakoue couldn't really get the job done. Like, when you're talking Rasheem Green, you're talking a guy that at his very best is a 4th or 5th rotational edge guy. So to me, if the Dolphins signed him, he would only be 5th or 6th because you have your top 3. Is he going to get more PT than the rookie you drafted at 21 overall in Chop Robinson? Like, you could probably argue that he'll be more effective than Muhammad Kamara in year 1, who they drafted in the 5th round. But to me, you made the decision to double dip at the edge department in the 2024 NFL Draft. You drafted Chop, you drafted Mo for a reason. To me, there is no need to go out there and sign Rasheem Green, because if you're grabbing those two guys in the draft to make sure that you have depth, athleticism, and good insurance in case Chubb and Phillips weren't able to go right away or needed to be eased back, that's why those two guys were brought in. So to me, unless you really feel that those two guys won't be effective for the first month of the year, you do not need to go sign an edge. So I'm probably passing on Rasheem Green and looking at more of an interior defensive lineman like a Calais Campbell if you wanted to beef up the defensive line. Today's show is sponsored by Mando, and as summer is creeping up here, you need deodorant that can handle the heat. Mando is clinically proven to work hard all day, and instead of covering up BO with heavy fragrances, Mando stops odor at the source. I love using Mando. I actually got the Mount Fuji deodorant on right now, and I smell absolutely terrific. I have other people that can testify to that. It's created by a doctor, and it's powerful enough to beat the toughest body odor, and you could put it anywhere on your body, including the family jewels. And you can get a $5 off your starter pack with code CHAT right now, and it comes with a bunch of different items alongside deodorant, like the deodorant wipes I got right here. That's why I love Mando. They got so many different products to make sure you're the best smelling person in the building. And luckily, I have a discount code to help you get hooked on my favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That code is CHAT. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use code CHAT at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Code CHAT. Link will be in the description of comments to today's video. Shout out to Mando. Make sure you're smelling nice like I am this upcoming summer. All right, let's go into Connor Williams now, the former Miami Dolphins and Dallas Cowboy, who is still recovering from that knee injury he suffered midway through the season. Could the Dolphins bring him back to the fold? Well, Alex Ballantyne had this little note on Williams saying that his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, said that Williams' injury was pretty significant and he would be focused on rehabbing the injury with no immediate plan to sign with the Dolphins or any team. And that's like the main thing with Williams when you start the discussion. Is he the best free agent available if everyone was completely healthy? Probably. Like, it'd probably be either him or Stephon Gilmore or Justin Simmons. But the issue is, there is that injury. And I personally would not expect Connor Williams to make a difference on the Dolphins or any other team he signs with until halfway through the year, week 8 or 9. It was a very significant knee injury he suffered just around November on the Dolphins last year on Monday Night Football. So sure, the rehab process might have him slotted to return in early September and October, but getting up to speed, trusting yourself to make and plant and get your power underneath you and legs, that probably wouldn't come back until November, a full year after the injury. And I think it still could make sense to bring back Connor Williams, though, if you're Miami, even though he wouldn't be able to return until about halfway through the year. Your interior offensive line is arguably the weakest part of your entire roster, with Aaron Brewer being the replacement that you signed in free agency, Isaiah Wynn and Robert Jones probably being the projected starters at the left guard and right guard position. And we've talked at depth about the right guard issues for Miami because I don't trust Robert Jones. I don't trust Liam Eichenberger, Lester Cotton. I'm intrigued by Jack Driscoll, but I would still think Robert Jones gets the first crack at it when we go to week 1 against the Jaguars. Like, there is definitely still an avenue to bring back Connor Williams due to the fact that he was so effective for Miami over the last 2 seasons and the need at the right guard position, which he played for the Dallas Cowboys before switching to center for the Miami Dolphins. We're going to talk more about Williams and how he performed over the past 2 years, but would you re-sign Connor Williams to this Dolphins roster? Type S for sign or type P for pass. Vote down below. I would absolutely sign Connor Williams back to this Miami Dolphins roster. I don't know how many times I have to say it. I just have not a lot of faith in this right guard department right now with Robert Jones, Jack Driscoll, potentially Eichenberg, and Lester Cotton. So you bring Williams back, and in case that the right guard nightmares of mine come to fruition, you have an established interior offensive lineman kind of waiting in the wings, returning from that knee injury on a cheap 1-year prove-it contract since he's only going to play half the season. You bring him back, you stash him, Let him sit, let him rehab, get right 5 to 7 weeks, and then mid-November when you go to make that playoff push, you have an elite starting right guard. I would re-sign Connor Williams. And he was so good with Miami to where, like, it's hard for me to not want to bring him back, right? One of the best centers in the entire NFL, according to PFF, over the past 2 seasons, having an overall grade of 78 and then 86.5. Run blocking grade of 85 and then 90. The pass blocking grades were both around 70. Didn't allow too many sacks. Yes, the inconsistencies at snapping the ball was always a question with Williams, but if you're bringing him back, he would be back more at his natural position at right guard. He is a fantastic blocker. That is not questioned here. So why not bring him back? And you could have an elite right side of the offensive line with Austin Jackson and Williams if Connor returns to his normal form after the injury, and you can protect Tua's blind side. To me, it just makes a lot of sense, and stash him. Like, it is a no-risk signing if you bring him in for 1 more year. You can have him here. You can put him on IR, be on the PUP list. He won't end up taking up a roster spot for most of the season, and then you could bring him back when he is ready to go, and he could be that starting right guard to solidify this offensive line. I think it's a no-brainer, honestly, and if he's willing to stay in Miami, rehab with the doctors he's been accustomed to over the past 2 seasons, I think it makes sense for both sides because I don't think anybody else is knocking on the door to hand Connor Williams an absolute bag. That's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because, well, if anything does go down with the Miami Dolphins, we will have you covered. I'm Nic Rohloff. We'll have another video tomorrow because we have a video every single day. So I'll see you then. Go Fins.